10 minutes past 8 o'clock. Good morning. It's kind of a gray, cloudy day, a little bit of rain falling in some areas, maybe a lot of rain in other areas. Please be a little careful out there today. 77 degrees is our temperature right now. This Thursday, you might want to make a note in your calendar at 7:30 to show up over at Opera Naples because there's going to be a phenomenal concert put together by Roberto Diaz. It's part of their Beaux Arts concert. This is number 3. Mr. Diaz is a violinist of international reputation, president and CEO of the Curtis Institute of Music, following in the footsteps of some pretty amazing soloist directors such as Josef Hoffman, Ephraim Zimbalist, and Rudolf Serkin. He's a teacher of viola at Curtis and former principal viola of the Philadelphia Orchestra and has had a significant impact on American musical life and does so in his dual roles as performer and educator. And Roberto Diaz joins us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm great. I was reading all about your CV here, and I am very excited to see that you're going to be in town. Tell us a little bit about, first of all, I'm curious to know about the Curtis Institute of Music.
Well, Curtis is an amazing little gem. You know, it's a very small school. It's only about 175 students. The students come from basically all over the world. We have students from every continent, and everybody's on a full tuition scholarship, and the school is about to turn 100 in just 5 short years.
Oh my gosh!
So it's been an amazing history for the school. People like Samuel Barber and Leonard Bernstein, Lang Lang, Hilary Hahn, Juan Diego Flores. A lot of household names have been at school, so it's an amazing little place, and we have about 115 faculty members for the 175 students, and everybody that teaches at school has an amazing career as a performer. People like Midori and Jonathan Biss, Eric Owens now, so it's quite a little place.
You know, one of the things an artist always takes with him as they go through their careers is the influences of people with whom they've worked. Now, you've worked with the likes of Mstislav Rostropovich, you've worked with Seiji Ozawa, you've worked with Sir Neville Marriner. How have these artists influenced your playing?
You know, sometimes it's just by being in their proximity, you see how they do things, you see how they approach things, the commitment that they have, and also you learn about the hardships of being really successful. It's a tough life, and so you get the opportunity to be with these people and talk to them, about their life and their dedication and their how they've evolved over time, and you also realize that you never stop learning, and their dedication to improving themselves and to keep going. It's very inspirational, and I've been very lucky to be around some of these people. Isaac Stern was a very important person in my life. So,
how did you first get interested in the viola?
I started when I was growing up in Chile. I was a violinist because back then in the 60s and 70s in Chile and South America, there really weren't many youth orchestras per se. So, young people usually played either the violin, the cello, the piano, or the guitar. Those were sort of the popular instruments. So sure. I actually started on the violin, and then my parents were both professional musicians. My mother was a pianist and my father a violist. And then when we moved to the U.S. In the early 70s, and I became physically big enough to play on a viola, my father said, why don't you try playing the viola? And all of a sudden, playing soccer was a little less important in my life, and playing the viola just kind of took off. So
you mean you gave up? You mean you gave up soccer for the viola?
I did.
Oh my
Please
gosh!
Don't funny when I said that.
Well, I mean, being from Chile, I would think that soccer is like or football, as it's called there, is like a religion.
It is, and I certainly had bought into it. So, my aspirations as a young guy were certainly to be a soccer player. But then we came to the States, and music just started to become much more of an important part of my life, and well, here we are many years later.
Yes, and you've performed the entire standard viola concerto repertoire, I understand, as well as done a number of Philadelphia orchestra premieres. So you have a little bit of time under your belt. What are we going to be hearing this Thursday night at Opera Naples?
You know, with Tao, I think we've put together a program that is really nice for the audience. It's quite varied. We're going to start with an arrangement of some Spanish folk songs by Manuel de Falla, and they're these beautiful songs. Originally, they're just really songs that de Falla had heard and around the country, and so they're sort of local to the different regions of Spain. So there's 6 of those, and then I'm actually going to play a piece for viola alone by Paul Hindemith, a German violist and composer. And it's a very interesting piece in that it has a movement that probably has the fastest metronome marking of any piece I've ever seen.
Oh my gosh!
And the title for the movement is Wild. So it's quite a sort of a display of fiery technique for the audience. It's a very interesting piece. And then after intermission, we're doing a set of transcriptions for viola and piano by William Primrose. William Primrose was probably the foremost violist he was like sort of the first big superstar of the viola in the 20th century. And Primrose, like Heifetz and Piatigorsky and many of his contemporaries, made a lot of transcriptions of pieces that he loved, whether they were an opera aria or maybe a movement of a string quartet or a movement of a sonata, something that, a piece that he really loved. And he transcribed it for viola and piano. So we have a little suite of those pieces. And then we finish the program with a sonata of Brahms. Brahms, at the end of his life, met a clarinetist that impressed him, in a way that made him all of a sudden almost come out of retirement and write these amazing pieces with clarinet, and 2 sonatas for clarinet and piano, and then a clarinet trio for clarinet, cello, and piano, and a clarinet quintet.
It sounds like a fascinating a program, and one that I'm sure that our listeners will want to go see, because if you've never seen up close and personal, and by the way, the theater is very intimate, so you're going to be pretty close.
It's a beautiful place, yes.
And I think you'll really get a thrill out of it. And that's Roberto Diaz, this Thursday, 7:30 p.m. at Opera Naples on Linwood Avenue, and I hope everybody can attend. Thank you for joining us this morning.
My great pleasure, and I look forward to being there.
All right. Thank you again. It's 8:17. We'll be back after this.